Are you curious about your roots, your family story, your DNA? Here in the Family Tree podcast, we share experiences and investigate insights into our family's histories and mysteries, traumas and treasures, looking at the hows and whys of researching our roots, our past, and our place in the world today. Speaking to authors and researchers featured in Family Tree and other experts from the wider genealogy scene. Enjoy. So it's several months since we ran the first ever DNA Bootcamp, and Michelle, this is Michelle Leonard, the DNA detective of genes and genealogy, and she did us proud on that first DNA Bootcamp, and we learned such a lot, and there was such a sense of community, and it was a bit of a roller coaster ride as well. I was really struck by that. So Michelle, you're going to be used to it because you're dealing with DNA and DNA discoveries day in, day out. But I found it kind of quite surprising how emotional it was, because there are people dealing with kind of surprises, maybe quite close to home. And is that normal? Like, what's it? Can you give us some flavor? Is that kind of what we need to expect when we take a DNA test?
Yes, I mean, when we take a DNA test, I don't think we need to expect that we're going to find, a major revelation in all of our DNA tests. But yes, I think anyone who takes a test has to understand that that's a possibility, that it is possible that they're going to find close relatives, genetic relatives that they don't know about, that they didn't know existed. And it's possible that they could find that they're not genetically related to close ancestors that they believe they're related to. So yeah, absolutely. It is a possibility. It's a potentiality that we all have to be aware of when we take a test. We have to weigh that up and decide how we feel about that before we take a test. But it's not the norm for everybody to find that they've got a close issue like that. But it does happen. And of course, on a day-to-day basis, I work on these kind of cases. I work on unknown parentage and all manner of unknown ancestor mysteries every single day. So I'm disproportionately seeing those kinds of cases. But there's many millions of other people out there that take a test and find that their ancestors are who they think they are. My own test, for example. However, even although I have found DNA matches to all of my great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents, and that I've not found any disconnects or misattributed parentage events on my lines, I've still had reasonably close relatives pop up matching me who I didn't know existed from adoptions and things that happened within my family that I wasn't aware of. So even when you do not have any problem between your genetics and your paper trail, it is reasonably common to find adoptees and people with unknown parentage and people with other mysteries reasonably closely related to you pop up matching you.
And what you've described is that whole mixture that kind of you need to be aware of the possibilities that might happen, but equally DNA is just such a fantastic tool, isn't it, just for our regular kind of run-of-the-mill hardcore family history to help us, piece together maybe those branches which are a little bit more distant, so second and third cousins and things like that. But it's not a kind of a traumatic thing, it's just a family history tool. So when we're contacting people, so if we're contacting someone who is just, let's say we think, right, they are just our second or third cousin, how would you recommend that a good way to contact someone to kind of strike a good chance that they might get back to you and you can kind of strike up a balance and strike up a conversation? And what's a good way to contact them?
I mean, DNA is actually one of the best cousin bait tools ever. We talk about cousin baiting and finding our cousins to collaborate with and share stories with and photographs and documents and just share the love of family history with people who are like-minded about loving family history. And DNA is the perfect tool for finding these people and collaborating with them. The key thing about contact, though, is that it differs depending on the match, depending on the information you have available to you for the match. And you have to think carefully about how you're going to go about that contact depending on what you know. So let's say you've got a match and they've got a small tree going back to their great grandparents, and the match shares about the right DNA to be in the sort of third cousin level. And you very quickly spot, oh, you've got their great-grandparent on your tree because that person is the sister of your great-grandparent. And actually, this person is very clearly your third cousin. They're your paper trail third cousin. They've got the same people, even although they might not have the exact ancestors in their tree, they've got their child. So there's clearly no problems there. There's no disconnect. There's no misattributed parentage event. That's your third cousin. So in that instance, you know, you want to send a nice, friendly message saying, hey, you know, we match at the third cousin level, and I've had a look at your tree and worked out our connection, and we share these second great grandparents, and fire surnames at them and information, but not too much, not all in one go, just a little bit of information. Ask them a, you know, one question or so, and, you know, say it'd be great to collaborate, and end it there. Keep it quick and simple for them to reply to you. But always, I say, dangle a carrot. If you've got something, so, you know, something like, hey, you know, they've obviously got only as far as their great grandparent. They don't have the great greats. You do. So, you know, offer, oh, I've got the marriage certificate, or I've got your great grandmother's marriage certificate, or something like that. You know, I'd be happy to share a copy with you. That little thing like that can sometimes get a reply back better. However, if on the other hand, you've got a nice new high match come in and there's no tree and you don't recognize the name, and this is not a person in your known family that you can fit in, then you have to firstly take a deep breath and then take a step back and investigate it. Think, okay, how could this person fit into my family? Or how could I fit into theirs? Because whenever you see something like that, it might be that there's a issue in your paper trail. It might be there's an issue in their paper trail. It might be they're adopted. There's lots of potential explanations for why someone's matching you via their DNA and your DNA. But the key thing is you don't know. At that point in time, you don't know. So the first thing you want to do is, if they have no tree, look at their profile. Do they give you any extra information about their age and location? And then look at the shared matches. Can you narrow things down in any way? Is this person matching on your mother's side? Are they matching on your father's side? Oh, they're matching your second cousin. So maybe it's on that particular section of your tree that you need to look for the connection. And maybe, just maybe, if you've not built your entire tree forward to the present day, maybe this is someone that matches perfectly fine as a paper trail connection if you had built forward to all the living people on the ends of those lines. If it proves not to be that, then that's something you're going to have to deal with at that point in time. But the key thing when you're making contact with someone with no tree and you don't know the connection is don't fire surnames at them. That's the difference. That's the difference. When you send that message, you want to be a little bit more circumspect, because you could be inadvertently telling this person that their father isn't their father, or their grandfather isn't their grandfather, or something really major for them, which you don't realize. If you go in there saying, hey, you match me and 10 of my cousins, you must be descended from our shared grandparents, and fire the names at them, and they've never heard of these people, that could cause shock and confusion in that person. So it's much, much better to send a message saying something like, hey, we have a really good DNA match at Ancestry. It'd be great to collaborate and try and work out our connection if you'd like. Ask them a question, something broad though, something like, my ancestry is predominantly Scottish and Irish. Do you have any Scottish and Irish ancestors? Something along those lines, something that isn't going to raise huge alarm bells. And, you know, simply ask if they perhaps would be able to give you some basic information about what they do know. What we want is to elicit the information that they do know. If we fire surnames at them and they don't know them, they might simply come back with, never heard of those, and not tell us anything more. What we want to know is what they do know about their family history. So ask something basic like, be great if you could tell me a bit about your 4 grandparents, something like that. If they could give you names and basic details of their 4 grandparents, you could build a tree for them and see if you could find the connection. And maybe it's not names you're looking for in that instance, but locations. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But the key concept with this is always to do no harm. And as excited as we are about our family history, and as much as we see a nice big new match and we want to just dive in there and find out how that person relates to us, that could be a major piece of news for that person in their life. They might have taken a DNA test and they might be finding out that their father isn't their father, or something really close to home. So we always have to bear that in mind when we are trying to pursue our family history quests.
Michelle, I remember you teaching us this on the bootcamp, not to fire off names, when you do occasionally come across a circumstance where you do have a surprisingly close match and it doesn't kind of seem to be tallying. So I think all of us, when you get news, sometimes your brain kind of works at different levels, and you think, well, if I'm looking at this theoretically, I can work out that I've got a kind of big piece of news here. But sometimes your brain almost puts the stoppers on it, doesn't it? And you just doesn't let you want to know something right away. So you, even though it might be very obvious to you what the situation is, the person receiving that news just may not be ready to hear it yet. And hence your kind of advice to be really steady and circumspect about how you approach them. So there's a lot to learn, isn't there? Because there's also lots of really practical things. There's that diplomatic side that you've been covering. And then there's also the really practical side and all the tools and things that you can use. And increasingly, the websites are offering more and more things to really help people with their DNA matches. So have you heard of any developments on the kind of major websites recently where you think, oh, that is a useful tool and that's going to come in really handy for people?
Oh gosh, lots. DNA websites and tools are constantly evolving and improving, and it's just amazing how much they've evolved over the years, and that they continue to evolve all of the time. So a number of the sites have had very recent updates, and of course, working on the DNA Bootcamp previously, you create all of these slides, and as a DNA teacher who presents regularly, I am constantly updating slides because things change, and it's a full-time job to keep on top of all of that at times, but at the same time it's exciting because we're seeing improvements. Just recently, I absolutely love Ancestry's new tool where we get the option to designate whether a match is on our mother's side or our father's side. So prior to this point, you only saw the mother's side, father's side designation if you had a parent tested. But many of us don't have parents that we can test. And therefore, we were never going to see those designations without this option to try and do it manually. So, of course, we have to be careful with it. We could inadvertently designate someone wrongly, but it's a great tool to be able to say, hey, I know this person's on my mother's side. I'm going to click mother's side. And even better, if we know the exact relationship, we can now designate that exact relationship, and it will show where the broad relationship prediction is placed, whether it's fourth to sixth cousin or second to third or whatever. Now the relationship that we choose will be placed there instead. So if we know someone is our half first cousin once removed, we can simply say, hey, that's on my mother's side, and yep, that's my half first cousin once removed. Now we'll be given a list of relationships, and even better, we'll be given the probabilities for those relationships from that probability page that we have on Ancestry. And this is a really good checking tool. So let's say we know this person's our second cousin, and we're going to go in and designate that they're our second cousin. But we haven't noticed that actually they're sharing really low amount of centimorgans to be our second cousin. When we go through this tool, we're going to have to scroll the way down the list. Second cousin isn't going to be there at the top with a high percentage. Maybe it's down there at the bottom with only 3% probability. That's telling us something that we need to pause. Quite possibly it's an outlier. Maybe you're in that 3% bracket. But when something is such a low percentage probability, we have to take confirmation bias out of the way and sit there and think, well, maybe something's wrong in my paper trail here. Maybe this relationship isn't what it's believed to be, and maybe I need to investigate this further. And this tool is giving us a heads up on those. When we go and we confirm our relationships, if we see something like that, we should stop and take stock and investigate whether it's an outlier or whether there's a potential that it's not really the relationship we think it is. And in situations like that, perhaps it might be a half second cousin instead of a full second cousin. So I think that's really good for giving people that checking. And then, of course, it's just really nice to be able to organize our list and to see the mothers and fathers side. And the geek in me is just like, oh, half first cousin, once removed's now there. That's just really exciting to see. And there's been great improvements on other sites as well. Family Tree DNA has overhauled their entire site this week. It's amazing to see. It's basically a full relaunch. It's not just a cosmetic overhaul to make the site look better. They've really changed some fundamental things that have been a thorn in the side for many genealogists over many years. A lot of people have probably heard me say in many different webinars that Family Tree DNA take into account very tiny segments of DNA, 1, 2, 3, 4 centimorgans, and these are more than likely to be false, and this isn't what the other companies do, and we should all go into the chromosome browser and add up the segments over 6, 7 centimorgans to get a total number of centimorgans more commensurate with what the other sites would be giving us. Well, Family Tree DNA have now listened. They have changed that. So thank you so much, Family Tree DNA. And there is now a threshold of 6 centimorgans. So all those tiny segments are gone. The amounts that we share with our matches are going to change and change significantly in some cases. And now we can look at that total number of centimorgans on the main match list and be much more confident that it's in line with what we would see on the other sites. So that's a major change, but of course, lots of other smaller changes as well. And the site is still updating. They've said this is just the beginning. There's going to be lots more changes to come. So keep a close eye on what Family Tree DNA are doing and updating their site. And of course, it's going to take time for it all to update properly. It's still in a bit of flux at the moment, and the updates are ongoing. And finally, MyHeritage. MyHeritage have recently given us the option to confirm or reject our theory of family relativity hints. And these are fantastic clues as to how we relate to our matches, a bit like ancestry through lines. That's in the same vein. But one of the issues with these clues, that it's a computer algorithm, they're picking out things, and sometimes there's going to be mistakes. They're going to pick out the wrong thing. You know, I have an example where I have an ancestor with a particular name that's exactly the same as somebody else's ancestor with that name. And the theory of relativity hint makes these two women the same woman, and it's just wrong, but you can see how it's made the mistake. But now I can reject it. I can say, hey, they're not the same woman, that's wrong, and I can take it away. I'm able to tell the system that that's a mistake, and that's great for the system and it's great for us. But by the same token, all of the ones that are correct, I can say, hey, confirm, that's right, you've got that right. So another great improvement.
All these tools, they sound as a mixture of kind of making the algorithms work for us and enabling us to get more organized and, as you say, like, you know, relate to our inner geek and get things really thoroughly tidy, and just makes sense of the massive amount of information we can find out by doing DNA. So Michelle, it's great to talk to you. I love hearing the news. That's really exciting. And also just to kind of a little flavour of what it's like to learn with Michelle. She's just brimming with information. She's always up to the minute with the latest DNA news. So all the information that we get on the bootcamp will be really current. And just to explain the bootcamp a little bit. So we ran it for the first time back in February and March, and it was really popular. So we're running it again this September, and it's ideal for anybody who's taken a DNA test and they're thinking, right, how the heck do I make sense of all my DNA matches and my results and things? So it's going to run over 8 weeks this time. So a little longer, and it syncopates. The first week is a webinar where Michelle will just fire information at us. Then the next week is a meeting where it's a Zoom meeting situation, and we all have our chance to ask our questions to Michelle, and we can see how we're getting on with all the tasks and the challenges she set us, because it is a boot camp. So the idea is you're going to come along, you're going to do some real kind of listening and learning. You're going to go away and try out the things on a practical basis and repeat that over 8 weeks. So by the end, you will have learned masses about what to do with your DNA. And also there's a workbook this time as well, isn't there, Michelle? So,
yes. Really excited about that. Yeah, people are going to have this workbook in which that they can go through everything, use it as a reference guide, but also as a hands-on learning tool in which they can jot down everything they've been doing and what they've got out of their tasks and what they've discovered and all of this kind of thing.
Yeah, it's good. It's kind of, because we found that there's so much information before in the handouts. We're like, this needs to be a proper workbook so that you can actually kind of keep all your records organised, because Michelle and I are all about being organised with our notes. So this is going to start, the bootcamp's going to start on the 29th of September, 29th of September. Going to run for 8 weeks. The tickets are £75, and that includes a digital copy of the workbook, or they're £50, again, including the digital copy of the workbook, if you're a subscriber to either the print or the digital issue of Family Tree. And then in the new year, you've got some other news as well, haven't you, Michelle?
Yes, for everybody that did the original bootcamp or who is going to do it in September, there's going to be a bootcamp 2.0, if you like. We're going to do a next steps bootcamp, go a little bit further with everything.
Yeah, so we'll kind of get one level of expertise under our belts and then move on to the next. So thanks so much, Michelle. It's always such a pleasure and so interesting to talk to you and learn just a few more glimpses about DNA. So thank you. I'm looking forward to the next bootcamp as well.
Looking forward to it as well. Thanks, Helen.
So I am completely excited today to be talking to the team behind the Society of Genealogists' brand new transformation. And I get the feeling they're 1 year into this programme and they've got another year yet to come. But the things that they've already got in the pipeline are extremely exciting. And I'll just welcome them all. We've got Elsa Churchill, the genealogist at the Society of Genealogists, who doesn't really need any introduction at all. There's Laura Doyle, who's the new interim CEO, which is very exciting. We've got Neil, I beg your pardon, Neil Alcock, who's the head of transformation, and Rebecca Gregory, membership services, and Christine Worthington, who is the transformation and volunteer manager. So there's lots of roles, lots of areas of expertise and development as well. And all of these changes are taking place for lots of different reasons. We're going to kind of get a feel for where the society's headed in the future. So Elsa, like the home of the Society of Genealogists has been your working home for many years, hasn't it? And over the last few weeks, or maybe longer, you've been packing it up, getting ready to close and kind of basically move house with it. So what have you been doing and what does it feel like?
Well, I'm glad to say it's not really me that's doing the packing, the shifting, the logistics, which means it's going to be done efficiently. But essentially, yes, the Society's building has really had its worth now. We've outgrown it. It's got a lot of maintenance issues, and so the opportunity to sell and move on, because it was our fifth building, was something we really just could not turn down. So I've been watching the team think about the logistics of moving and also how we can keep a service running for our members while we move. And luckily, if anything did come well out of COVID, it was the fact that we did what lots of organisations did, 3 years worth of tech development in 3 weeks. It assembled more of an online presence that we ever had. Really were up to our presence with our education and interaction with members, and with Christine working with volunteers at home with much better comms and communication and forums. We know that we can still keep a presence going even if we do move and change. And so COVID was the kick that we all needed. And I suspect, though maybe not so dramatically, would we have wanted it to have happened. And so, we've brought on a team that's, really given us the impetus and the ability, and by selling the building, the means to do what we've been wanting to do for a hell of a long time.
I mean, you're so right, Elsa. With the pandemic, I'm definitely one of those people who are not London-based, and then suddenly being able to join in with the Society of Genealogists offerings, like the events that you're doing. That was it's extremely exciting and enabling, and we can all kind of get access to your speakers and your experts. It's something that we, be much more, it's harder, isn't it? Once you've got to book a train ticket and get someone to look after the dog and everything else, it becomes less possible.
It's very easy to think that the society is just the concrete building in London, but it isn't. It's our members all around the country, all around the world. And we have honestly interacted better with them. I'm sure Laura can tell you, our AGM had 3 times the number of people attending online than we've had in central London for ages. We have many more people attending our courses than we can squeeze in to our lecture room. So people have always wanted an extended digital presence. The tech has become manageable, and we finally grasped it.
Yes, great news. So you're talking about packing up, and obviously it is a big logistical thing. So while the society isn't just its building and its thing, while it is all those other intangible things, all the expertise or whatever, then the records that society holds in its libraries are still a massive deal, aren't they? And I know, Christine, you've been looking at moving this stuff and making sure it's all carefully looked after, properly archived and everything else. So can you tell us a little bit about the decisions you've been making, like where is the stuff going and what are the plans for it?
We surveyed our members in the lead up to making decisions about relocation, and they told us overwhelmingly that first of all, if we relocate, they would like us to stay in London or in the Greater London area, but they also told us that they would like us to digitise a lot more. There are a lot more members who sort of said, we don't actually mind where you move to, provided you provide the digital content that we need. There are people that live too far away or they're housebound. There are many reasons why people can't visit the premises. So part of our consideration for this is, okay, if we're going to be in or about central London, we cannot accommodate the enormous collection all on site, that some of it is going to have to be off site and ordered in. That's fine. There are many repositories that are doing that these days, and it's a fairly standard thing. But it sort of opened up discussions about what can be digitised, what can we put online for our members, and how we can sort of build bridges to members who do live a long way away, who can't come in. And so we've got a massive digitisation plan underway, beginning with many old card indexes that have come in with special collections over the years, as well as we're looking at our collections of parish registers and monumental inscriptions. There are volumes of material that are very high demand.
And so where are all these hard copy things being kept? Are you able to say about that?
Yes, we are partnering with Restore, and they take care of removals and storage, but they also run a heritage facility, heritage storage. And for that, Restore partners with the National Conservation Service, and the facility is at Upper Heyford. They operate this facility under very strict environmental conditions. Collections before they go in there are inspected to ensure that they are mould free and pest free. So we've had National Conservation Service representatives in on a number of occasions to inspect items at our previous off-site storage, and also in at the Society at Clerkenwell also. And we'll be having an ongoing relationship with them to help us to pack some of the rarer materials in our collection to ensure that they will be arrive at heritage storage, in great condition. And we can also partner with the National Conservation Service in the future for having parts of our collection assessed, which will help our grant funding applications, etc.
I mean, that's a whole interesting topic in its own right, isn't it? Just the conservation and looking at it from all those sort of angles as well. So a lot's happening, isn't it? And so Laura, you've kind of got a lot to have oversight of, and like, what's it like trying to draw together all these different goals and kind of different missions that everybody's got, because it's not just a kind of one faceted approach. It's multifaceted, isn't it? Like everything is being transformed about the society. So, and you've done a survey, and even doing the survey, that was exciting because you got a flavour of all the ideas that you're buzzing with just from the survey. So can you tell us a bit about what your goals and vision are, for the society going forward?
Yes. So yes. Wow, we've got so much going on right now. Yes, are we on 17 transformation streams? Yes. we're having a look at everything. We're in that rather privileged position right now to address and make better and improve the services for our members right now. Couldn't be done without my team and the spectacular members and volunteers that we have at the Society. There are so many people who are so passionately connected and involved with the Society and so desperately want to see success in the future. And we're 110 years old. It would be lovely to think that we're around for more, several times that in the future. But the demand and the needs of current day genealogists and those who are finding family history now has changed over those 110 years, and we as an organisation need to change with that. We've been spectacularly lucky on the number of people who are really committed to giving us their ideas about things. This isn't just people just saying, oh well, I want X. It's and have you thought about Y and Z, and that's a real community spirit on things. Right now, I've got more volunteers in helping pack the library right now than I do have staff members actually in the library. And this is a joint effort, really, I guess. It's very clear that the Society's key foundations are sort of the community feel that we have with our members and our volunteers. The archive and the library is spectacular, and then our events program, where we're giving people the tools to go out and find their family history and uncover things. And it's a really exciting position to be in right now, albeit somewhat terrifying because there's just so many things going on.
Yeah, I mean, the Society always has a really prestigious reputation, well deserved as well. But what was interesting about your survey is that the kind of the new direction so obviously to continue with that and to continue with having really high standards, but also to look at kind of a wider membership, because online learning can take any form, can't it, from somebody who's a beginner to somebody who wants advanced learning. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I found that really encouraging, that kind of more inclusive angle that you're kind of taking, that family historians of all levels are going to be so welcome in, especially the digital scape, but all the different areas of what the Society is planning for the future.
Yes, absolutely. And I think in some ways it's we're just trying to update that view of people. We've always been great at helping people through from the start. I mean, Elsa can tell you years worth of assistance that we've provided over the years and lectures, etc. But that's not necessarily what we're always known for. So some of it is about just sort of trying to expand that. And as Elsa mentioned, that we have people overseas attending our AGM. We've never had that before. It's been phenomenal that Zoom and these hybrid events that we hope to be able to hold in the future when we're allowed to hold physical lectures again, we'll be able to continue with that success. And Elsa's program with Laurie and the team is quite spectacular at helping to address that, I think.
People are going to see that there's a big refreshment about things to look forward to. It will be inclusive, broader, not only a new building, but all sorts of other things that Rebecca can tell you about with our site and the things we hope to do. It's going to be a very interesting time in the next few weeks and months.
And years, probably. So Rebecca, I was really excited when I heard about your new membership model that you've got, and the way that people with shared interests are going to be able to potentially, make contact with other people who have those niche specialist interest areas. So can you tell us a bit about that, the other membership plans you have?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I came on board earlier this year, we had some failing systems, but the good thing about that is it gave us a kind of blank blank canvas to kind of rebuild again and really look at what our members want. So yeah, as Elsa said, in a couple of days, we're going to be launching our new Look website and membership system. So this has very much been designed with our members at the forefront. So the website's been designed, obviously it's very easy to use and search, being able to search our digital records is the kind of at the forefront of the design. And also we're launching a new membership system, which we chose this system mainly because of its the way we can develop its discussion boards and forums, because our members made it very clear they want to kind of connect with each other around their shared interests. So that's what's the new system is going to support that. and also gives the ability, as we've said, for people that are members are overseas or that can't get to London, that they can interact and share information on the discussion board.
It definitely sounds fun. Thank you. It does. It sounds really fun, and I can't wait to go and find kind of kindred spirits who've shared interests, because that's such a big deal with family history, isn't it? If you find people on your wavelength, either your particular occupations that you're into or geographical areas or whatever, it's just ideal. Yeah. So Neil, I'm sure we want to know like where you're moving. I'm sure you can't tell us that, but can you give us some kind of rough time frames about what's happening next?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably easier to start at the beginning to a certain extent, because when you set up a transformation plan such that we've set up at the society, which to be honest, probably I'm familiar with given my career of the past, but the people in the society have probably never come across anything like this. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind for everybody. You set it up as a given the sort of available budget that we had, you set it up as roughly a 18-month, 2-year plan to actually transform the whole of the organisation. And when I say the whole of the organisation or society, it is literally everything. I mean, I think when I was on the board and then stepped off to run the transformation, but when we're looking from the board's perspective in probably mid-20, I'm losing track of time now, but earlier than that, I suspect. But you had a set of tired and, as Bex described, failing systems across the board. You had a location which was great in terms of its actual physical location and where it is, but again, it got tired. It was lacking investment, and basically, as Elsa said, it sort of started to be not necessarily outgrown, because it's a great building, but certainly had got a little bit tired around the edges, let's put it that way. And of course, a very significant asset for the society, as we knew on the board. And then even elements like some of the people working around it, etc. There was all sorts of things which needed to have redefined or re-energized. So we sort of I put out this plan. It was 17 streams, 17. I'd say 3 of which were really boring. I always offend the finance people at this point, but the ones we sort of chalked off first were the kind of building block dull ones, if you like. So we had to change the finance system underlying, so that people could get paid, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That went from a product called Sage to a product called Zero. So all of these are little mini projects which all take time, energy, effort, and sign off, and et cetera, et cetera. So running 17 in rapid succession, as I say, for those not familiar with it, is an absolute whirlwind. We delivered the finance successfully. No one would notice that one, really. Then we went to.
If you got it wrong, they would notice.
Well, when they didn't get paid, when they didn't get paid, just exactly.
Yeah.
Especially some. But anyway, that was hugely successful, and simultaneously we put the new events site out there. I think you're probably aware that during lockdown, obviously, well, you're clearly aware during lockdown, it was much easier to run online events, and you couldn't run physical events. So there was a huge shift to online events. We chose, for that reason, we chose a piece of software early that we were going to put in just to cope with events. It wasn't necessarily going to fit exactly with what we were going forward with, but we wanted something fast. And it's a sort of proof of concept of the transformation that we can deliver things on time and on budget, basically. And that I think was very successful again. So we put the new event system out there. I think it has seen a terrific upsurge in attendees of online events, and I think probably had a knock-on effect of people going to the AGM as well, as they got more familiar with the society online. On that, a couple of other things, sort of less interesting, were sort of going on around this sort of some investment strategies and things like that. There's other streams, which is when you sell a building, before you buy another one, you kind of do something with the money. So So trust the fact that this is being taken care of as well. It's being invested sensibly, so that we maximise the any revenues for the society to invest in the collections and the members, obviously. And then come the start of this year, we then went on to the three next major chunks of it, which was in no particular order, but the website, the membership, and the location. Everybody wants to know where we're going, but you can't even if however far we are down the line, you still can't say anything until a deal is signed. So we've let out enough information about that before it becomes commercially sensitive. So I'm going to leave it there, because we kind of know that it's London, and that's sort of in the public domain. But anything more is a little sensitive to any bids we might be putting in. So it's London, and then
that narrows it down.
Say again.
So that narrows it down.
Yeah, well,
Just silly, yeah.
I think you were on the last meeting of these sorts, where of course you get a million questions trying to narrow it down to a specific point. You're not going to find that out from us yet, but believe me, we're well in train with the new premises and hopeful. But there's a lot of things that could go wrong on this before you actually sign a deal. Clearly, the new premises, as we've sort of alluded to before, are going to be a change. They're going to be a different feel when you get into the building, a much more inclusive and sort of welcoming feel, a bit tidier, hopefully. Not the other one got particularly untidy, but it did collate a lot of stuff over the years, which meant you weren't really making great use of the space, to be honest. This process, if nothing else, has helped us to kind of clear that down to a library, which now, when you walk into it, is almost unrecognisable in the current building than where it was sort of a year ago, when it was busy. Let's put it that way. But the new one will probably make better use of more modern technology. It'll have particular working areas, research areas, all sorts of things. Which, so back to your timeline question, that really saying that if we get a building that we're bidding for, there's still a lag between then stripping it out and laying it out how we want the new society's premises to look and feel, so that it's the most useful and most attractive to existing and, importantly, new members. Because you ask about the vision. There's one clear vision from the person who looks at the accounts and the board, etc., which is we want to increase the number of members, and a lot. I think there's massive potential for the society to go from what it is now, around 7 or 8, a lot higher than that. Which of course then enables all sorts of other things. Whether we can expand spaces, we can get specific event spaces, or whatever else it might be that we want to invest in. Got more membership income coming in, and that's the driver behind that. So and then after the simple website rollout, the membership rollout and the new location, we then move on to the underlying applications, which is the sort of lifeblood of what a member wants, really. So that's the online data stuff, which we're looking at completely transforming and making a lot easier to use. The website's done a part of that, but so what we've got at the moment is something called SOG Data Online, and we know that's a little bit clunky, but it serves its purpose, and it works fine, and it's now been made easier to use with the website coming forward next week. And then we have 2 or 3, which I'm not going to reveal everything about, but there's 2 or 3 other applications we've got in the pipeline. One of which is probably a little bit more in the public domain, so I can mention it a bit. But we are scanning in the X thousand, I think it's about 6,000 or so pedigree rolls. So big trees, really grand looking things. I mean, fantastic artifacts, basically. We are scanning them in. We're GEDCOMing them if people understand that, which is turning them into a viewable indexed file, if you like. And then we're hoping that we can create a zoom in, not this Zoom, a more interesting Zoom, a Zoom which basically goes into the image of that file and simultaneously displays the indexed data set alongside it. So it should be, and we're doing that a little bit with the help of a professor or a doctor actually at Imperial College, who created the zooming software and is into his genealogy as well. So all very exciting partnerships, and I think some brilliant ideas around how we will further transform the things which lie behind the membership area. So you will have to join to get access to this stuff, because our vision, as we said, is to obviously provide better service to the existing members and to attract many more, so that we sustain ourselves in a viable way forever.
It's very interesting. I mean, the finance isn't boring at all, but you can see how the more members not only will benefit your bottom line, but it also benefits Christine with her work recruiting volunteers. You're going to have more volunteers, and you can see that there is so much potential to unlock with a kind of in a positive cycle of more and more kind of good energy. Yeah,
don't get me wrong. The finance itself is not boring, and the turnover in order to reinvest in the society is absolutely the lifeblood. It's just the system which runs it. It's not the most interesting.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, all of you. I mean, I can't wait to see what happens next. And some of it's imminent, so we don't have to be champing at the bit. Rebecca will be telling us, rolling it out, as you say, very soon, like the new website and the new membership things, and then other things to look forward to over the months to come. And in a funny way, the building, you've got so many digital developments that you're doing and so much different visions that you've got happening. The building is almost kind of one of the least exciting elements, because all of this other stuff's going to happen wherever you end up, even if you're in a caravan somewhere. Yes. All of this other stuff's going to happen. So it's just great to hear. So thank you very much, then, Elsa and Neil and Laura and Rebecca and Christine. It's been fantastic to get the chance to talk to you. Can't wait to hear more over the time to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. One thing to add is just that the team that Christine is leading on the sheer logistics of the move of 100,000 items from the library, with everything being inventoried, barcoded, boxed, so that we do have a retrieval system that people can order in and get their collections in. And if we have more material off site, that is actually really fascinating to watch. And the fact that there are rooms at the Society that now look like scenes out of the Raiders of the Lost Ark, with boxes and boxes and boxes and barcodes. And the best thing was Laura overseeing one pickup of 20 or 30 pallet loads of stuff. She had an eagle eye spotted boxes that didn't have barcodes, or she thought didn't have barcodes, and she just leapt out, because as well as just you're seeing the management team here, but it's really hands-on. And everybody from membership to everyone's is picking up boxes, and the volunteers, because they know our collection, are really itemising it, so we're not going to lose things, and we're really looking after the stuff that's going. And the partnership, we're doing that. So I just wanted to say that the things that the actual physical organisation of it is absolutely phenomenal.
And I'd like to add to that too, that volunteers have been involved in every aspect of this transformation, and it's been really great to be in a role where I've had a foot in the transformation team and a foot in volunteer management. So it's been kind of seamless to have volunteers helping us testing software and answering surveys for other work streams, coming on site to help us pack, and a lot of the projects that will come online as a result of our digital transformation are actually the product of volunteers' work. The pedigree rolls, they're being scanned by a volunteer. All the indexing is done by volunteers at home, and regardless of the disruption caused by our move, those home volunteer projects will roll on, will continue to provide for those. So volunteers have been always, and continue to be, and will be, one of the most important resources that we have.
I thought you captured it perfectly with this is all about unlocking the potential of the society, but we're doing it with the help of everyone. It's amazing.
It's a reflection of the desire, isn't it? I mean, the pedigree roles, as Christine quite rightly points out, has been driven solely by one person, really, in the first sense, and he has done all the scanning himself. I mean, he scanned these are hard things to scan. Yeah, and we keep on taking boxes up to his house in Essex, bringing them back again. He scans a load more, and etc. There's such a passion from the volunteers in there, and he's got 7 further volunteers working, doing all of that scanning. The product they're going to come up with, and we're just sort of central. We just guide them through the process, and I just shout at them saying, well, when can I have it? When can I have it? Really? That's my role in life. But it's all being done by a series of really passionate volunteers, or staff members. There's not massive amounts of money being spent on pricey management consultants or technical specialists, particularly. We need some, but it's 50-50 at most, being in terms of the work effort.
Well, I think this just shows how many ideas you've got, because I tried to stop the meeting and then you all carried on talking. One more thing.
Sorry. We're not short of enthusiasm.
It's a great sign. Yeah.
So we'd like to have the last word as well, Helen. So we'll just leave it there. We'll leave it there.
If you have ideas you'd like to hear on the Family Tree podcast, or a story you'd like to share, please email editorial@family-tree.co.uk, and we'd love to hear from you. The more, the merrier. Take care, everyone.